Terrer Tram.
Yeah,
Terrer Tram.
Terrer Tram.
Terrer Tram.
Terrer
Oh
Tram.
my gosh! If you can guess, this is probably my favorite part of Halloween Horror Nights. Is the Terrer Tram experience. It was The Walking Dead.
The Walking Dead invades the Terrer Tram.
So awesome! First off, I do have to say I love how they had a separate maze in the Terrer Tram. They both had the same thing, which is Walking Dead, the same theme. But it was like a big extension, and it was so awesome how they did this.
Walking Dead for sure had a big presence at this year's event. I mean, not only did you have the Terrer Tram, but you had the maze, you had the backlog, the backlog experience.
Yeah.
So I mean, it had a huge presence this year, and The Walking Dead is a returning theme for this year's Terrer Tram.
It is.
It is.
See, I didn't know that.
From 2012, they returned it, and I think this year has been the best year for Terrer Tram. The Walking Dead just itself lends itself to the Terrer Tram. We've had different variations on themes before, Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, and that. I think The Walking Dead's really worked because you're on a set with zombies. It feels like you're in a zombie apocalypse.
I do like that. Yeah, you guys. I have to say the costuming was good. It was up to par. Last year was Scream.
No, 2011 was Scream.
Oh, sorry, 2011?
Yeah, and then 2012 they actually started with The Walking Dead.
Okay, sorry, I keep on New Year confusion and stuff like that. But it was Scream, correct? Yeah. And just it wasn't the same kind of feel.
I agree.
Like we went there when it was Chucky or something like that, or not Chucky, but something else similar. Same kind of route. To me, it was longer, but for this one, they did shorten it, which I kind of didn't like, because I just wanted to stop and look around and awesomeness. But in all honesty, the costumes were amazing. Like the ride up there to the Terrer Tram, they were giving you previews of Walking Dead. My person, he was so hyped. He's like, look at this! And he was totally into it, which I have to say adds an extra plus. If you're working at Universal Studios, you cannot sit there on the Terrer Tram and go, okay, here's this now. Yeah, you guys are going to die, bye-bye. He had an ultimate energy. What about your person?
My person was, I had, oh my gosh, I had two really good tram hosts. One for the backlot and one for the Terrer Tram. So, but the one for the Terrer Tram, she really gave it her all. So, like she was really trying to be very creepy in that. But she's like, I am failing at this. But it doesn't matter because you're going to be scared anyway. So like she made it pretty fun to be on her tram. Like I've had tram hosts before that are really cheesy in the way that they've done their acting, and it doesn't. But mine was fine. The costumes, I do agree, were fantastic this year. Because this year was based on Season 3 of The Walking Dead with the prison and that, you got the Riot Guard zombies, which worked really well.
Oh my gosh, I had a funny story about that one too, the Riot Guards after you finish. Oh my gosh. Awesome.
I think the highlight, costume-wise, for the night, and actually the scary zombies, were the burning zombies. The burnt zombies. I'm trying to...
yeah.
As you go up the hill, and even before the hill, there's people like hiding in the bushes and stuff. They've got burnt faces, like they've been in a fire for a while, and oh my gosh, they scared so many of my friends, and they made me jump a couple times.
Yeah, it's so funny because it's been a while. This was in October, and now, January, woohoo! But the riot zombies, believe it or not, a lot of my friends from my college does the zombies and the chainsaw people and everything at Halloween Horror Nights. So I'm aware that there's some people that I know working there, and they'll ultimately tag me in certain things. But when we went on the night that we went, these people were phenomenal. And I mean, they had their, they were scary and everything. I got chased so many times. But here was the thing. We had someone who was afraid of chainsaws. And a lot of the times, if you're going to Halloween Horror Night, why would you go if you're ultimately terrified of chainsaws? There's going to be them everywhere. Get used to this. But she was to the point where she was like, she's going to run and hurt somebody. That's how afraid she got, and that's because of the chainsaws. So Foxy, which is, our friend who went... Red Streak. I can't say her name on here. She doesn't want it, but her ultimate name is Foxy. You know who I'm talking about.
Yeah,
right?
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. So she literally looked at this guy and went like this, And this guy who was in riot gear fully, did something he wasn't supposed to do, went out of character and said, is she in danger, or is she going to hurt herself? My friend said ultimately yes. So what he did is he let all the other caricatures know. He went like this. I guess is a universal symbol for don't do it.
Yeah.
And so they all ultimately walked away from her, but they still stayed in character with the chainsaws and with the riot gear on.
Yeah.
Walked away from her and allowed her to pass, which to me that I have a high respect for.
They're very well trained. In comparison to a lot of I've seen videos for like Knots, and that Universal has a very strict training regimen for their scare actors. They're trained from in person by John Murdy himself. They're cast by different people, but John, the creative director, takes the time to actually work with them individually to work on their scares. So there's a lot of work that went in there, and you can see that when you go to the event. It's one of the reasons I love Horror Nights so much, is the characters feel like the characters they're portraying. My personal opinion, I don't get that at Knots as much, or especially Fright Fest. It just seems like they were paid to be there. Whereas with Universal, they feel like the character. They're really engaged with their audience, and I get that, especially on the Terrer Tram, where there's a ton of scare actors.
Oh yeah,
out
guys,
there.
it is quite literally this maze. I don't know how many characters were there. My friend who was a caricature in the riot gear said there was like over 50 or something like that of their actors in there. But here's the thing that what I do like is people have asked me on my YouTube channel and Facebook, are they allowed to touch you?
No.
Big no. They are not allowed to touch you. And there's some, invisible rules when you go to these kind of events. They are not allowed to touch you, and you are not allowed to touch them. So if you think, they can't touch me, but hey, pretty lady, squeeze. You cannot do that. They'll get you kicked out.
The only time they touch you is if it's accidentally they bump into you.
Yeah.
I've had one bump into me a couple of times, and it's not a big deal because they're not trying to scare you. They're moving fast. They're wearing a lot of makeup, so it's to be expected that they'll bump into you a couple of times, but they don't grab you on purpose or anything. Certain events outside of Horror Nights do have special passes where you sign a waiver and you wear a glow-in-the-dark sticker, and they're allowed to touch you. But with Universal Studios, they never touch you.
So if you are worried about going to this kind of event, they're not allowed to touch you, and you do not touch them.
Then.
So don't worry about that. The ultimate, they're in character. So basically, I've had a zombie who was like, rah, rah, rah. But no hands were placed on my person. But I have had other instances at Hollywood Horror Nights where I guess they had to get to somewhere, the actors, because they were something, so they just kindly, went like this.
They'll
very gently moved, and it was very appropriate, no bottom waist. It was right at my shoulder, just like this, and he moved quickly to get to where he needed to go.
Like I said, they're very well trained over at Universal Studios. So.
And what I do have to say about that maze, a lot of people who are watching this know Halloween Horror Nights, and some of them don't. Basically, the back lot is where they show you. How can you define this? Because I can't focus right now on that. The back lot.
The back lot. Well, moving on from the Terrer Tram, which was fantastic, you had the backlot experience, which would lead into the Walking Dead maze and that. The backlot itself, I was excited for it, to say the least. As a huge Universal fan and history aficionado, I love everything Universal. It was a dream come true to walk on the back lot of Universal and see the sets and stuff.
So it's basically set design and stuff like that.
I was, however, disappointed with how much they used of the back lot. It was just kind of a slight segment outside of where New York Street is. However, saying that, getting to walk around where some of the courtyards are near where the Back to the Future courthouse is was fantastic. So
for me, there's different segments. You're walking from the How the Grinch Stole Christmas set. Then you also have the plane set from, what is that movie called?
The War of the Worlds.
Oh my god, which fit in perfectly with this theme. Oh my god, it is so awesome. The one thing that I do have to complain about the backlot is what's the house? The house where the guy...
Oh, Psycho? The Psycho house, the Bates
To me,
house.
it did... Okay, because to me, when you guys go there, they didn't do this the first time I went. The first time I went seemed to have a very long stretch. They utilized, like you said, the backlot. what I've noticed in the last 2 years is that they have shortened it, but they have added more stuff to it, so maybe that's what it is. But the one thing that I didn't like, and I haven't liked it, is it's not Norman Bates, is it? It's the house. What's the house called again? Psycho?
The Bates.
Literally, they roped it off, and last year, you could go get your picture taken with the guy. I didn't like that. To me, it didn't fit in with the theme. If you had zombies walking around the house, hiding around the house, then I could see it because you're utilizing the house. But as far as I'm concerned, it was completely just out of place. It seemed like something separate because you had a path that you stayed on. Then here's the house, and you could just swoop and get your picture taken, then walk out. I didn't like that. That's just something that I was like really about because it didn't fit in with the theme. I'm big on themes.
Yeah. Well, that's why I think that, as I said, the back lot, not the Terrer Tram, but the back lot worked really well if you're into Walking Dead as much as I am, and that, like, with the Terrer Tram, it's really good. I'm not just detracting on the quality of the back lot. I know it's a lot of people's least favorite thing about Horror Nights is the Terrer Tram. However, this year did feel like an improvement overall. It did have some familiar territory, which is a little disappointing, but this goes along with like the House of Horrors.
Yeah.
There's only so much they can really do with the
and plus too, because it is a full set house, you can't pick it up and magically carry it to somewhere else. But like I said, if they had zombies like that were sitting around the house or trying to bang on the windows, then I could see it. But like you said, it's just they're utilizing what they have. They can't physically pick this up and move it.
I was trying to find Log Bunny this year, and I couldn't find him.
Who's Log Bunny?
All right, I have to say this. A lot of horror fans know this. There's a running joke from John Murdy and the creative team. They put it's a log with 2 legs and two little ear-like logs on top of it.
Oh my gosh!
And it's called Log Bunny. And every year, John puts it in different places and see if fans can find him. And
really?
I couldn't find him this year.
So it was difficult this year. They made it really difficult.
They always put him on the Terrer Tram, and you can always try and find him. He's usually placed somewhere just out of the outside the perimeter, but enough where you can actually see him. But I couldn't find him this year. I was disappointed.
Yeah, I do have to say though that the Terrer Tram, if you guys do end up going next year, if they have it, I always check it out first. That's the first thing we run to. You can get on as many times as you want, hopefully, before, because later on the night, that's when the big crowds seem to get there. Then they go for it. But I always go to the Terrer Tram first because it's just amazing, especially this time. And also, too, how, like you said, it was the extension of The Walking Dead. So basically, it's basically you were Terrer Tram, and then it was Walking Dead, correct? I can't remember.
You get on the tram. Yeah, the Terrer Tram each year has a theme, and this year was a returning theme for season 3 of The Walking Dead. So, what did you think of it overall? Like, what would you score it?
For me, it was a 10 out of 10. I love this Terrer Tram so much. It was so much to see. They did have a lot of the people there that you knew from last year because they have to utilize what they have. But it just, to me, the energy was so up because I personally think the actors and who did I know was over in there. I'm a humongous fan, so it's like a high honor to do this Terrer Tram maze. And I'm like, oh my gosh, yes. So the actors were just upped, and they were personal fans of the show. So I think that for me, it was just a 10 out of 10. What about you?
I would probably give it an 8 out of 10. I thought it was the best out of all the years combined in terms of Terrer Tram, and I know there's some differing opinions on that, but I do feel that The Walking Dead does work for the Terrer Tram. It does lend itself really well to that theme. Chances are we won't get Horror Nights this year. Wow, that was a big
Did you hear that?
Yeah. We probably won't get Walking Dead back this year, but I'm curious to see how they up the ante on this year's event. So I would end it with an 8 out of 10.
Awesome. Okay. So you heard it from us. That is our thought on the Terrer Tram.